Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business. I'm your host, Catryn Becker. In this podcast, we like to say that while a smart person learns from their mistakes, a genius learns from the mistakes of others. So, in that vein, we bring together experts from all different walks of life, all different industries, professions, you name it, because we want to learn what they have learned to make them successful in their careers so that we can either avoid the mistakes completely or that we can fail faster through them. My expert today, her name is Cindy McGhee, and she is a amazing business owner, president and CEO of a company called NextGen Tax Services out of Oklahoma, where she's helping her bridging the gap between having a CPA and accountant be just something that's transactional and have it be something that's transformational. So you're definitely going to want to listen to this episode. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So glad to be here today.
I am so glad to be here today too, because honestly, taxes are unavoidable, right? Isn't that how the saying goes? The only thing you can't escape is death and taxes.
True. It's true. They're unavoidable and they're definitely not everyone's favorite topic. But they're a kind of a necessary issue to address when it comes to business ownership. So we're thankful that we get the opportunity to help support people through taxes. The death part can't help with that, but we can at least support you through the tax part.
Well, and you and I had the opportunity to talk a little bit before this, and you're so very different from any accountant that I've ever spoken to. And I think that's such a great extra flavor that you bring into it, that it doesn't need to be this boring, dry, awful topic, that you bring a lot of energy and understanding into the subject.
Yeah, I think sometimes we fear what we don't know or what we don't understand. And so we try to avoid it. And I think tax is one of those topics that kind of falls into that category. And so me and my team at NextGen, we really try to make sure that we help educate the business owners that we get the privilege to serve and demystify all the complexities of the tax code and really like find ways to help use the tax code to our advantage. A lot of big business owners do that already. They have whole teams of CPAs and tax attorneys that do this kind of work for their businesses. And so we bring that to small business owners and try to make sure that it's not something that we can be afraid of, but it's something that we can really take advantage of and do the best to minimize what we have to pay in taxes each year.
And it's kind of the interesting mindset shift, because yes, it's great if you can minimize the taxes completely legally, wanting to take advantage of all that's available to you, but also it's a double-edged sword, because you're like, man, my business is growing, which then for means I need to pay more in taxes. So it'd be so great if we could be a mindset shift of, yay, I get to pay more in taxes. It means my business is doing really well.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. We love it when businesses thrive. We don't love it when that results in, the IRS or the state taking a bigger cut. And I like to say all the time, the tax authorities are like the lazy profit share partner in your business, right? They do nothing. They don't add value to the business directly, and they sure get to benefit from the business. But what's interesting is that for a lot of really big businesses, they actually support their growth through tax strategy. So you've probably heard the stories on the news about companies like Amazon and Nike and FedEx, like major corporations that actually are growing because they're investing what would have been paid in taxes back into their business. And small business owners aren't usually privy to the same knowledge that those big companies are using. So we get really excited about taking the strategies that like an Amazon uses and bringing that to a small e-commerce business, because you're eligible, you're in a similar industry, and you can take advantage of that. And so even when your business is thriving, it actually opens you up to more opportunities to find strategic ways to mitigate your tax burden and use that as a way to help foster additional growth in your business. So instead of shying away from it or being concerned, we can lean into it and actually find great ways to let the taxes be a benefit to your business, not a drag on your bottom line.
So see, listeners, I told you, she's so much better than not that you're better than all accountants. I can't say that specifically, but oh gosh, it's such a breath of fresh air hearing you speak about this and having it as such a partnership and collaborative approach. And I'd love to hear more about how you came to this position, because it's such a breath of fresh air. It's so disruptive in the industry. So I'd love to hear how that came to be.
Yeah, so I started my career like most CPAs at a big four accounting firm, Ernst & Young. They're the second largest in the world. And literally worked, my client was Federal Express. And I'm fresh out of grad school when I started this job, like brand new CPA, made a modest salary, and learned that this multimillionaire client I was working for was paying less in taxes than me.
Ooh.
And immediately I thought, oh, something's wrong here. We're working with who I sign on to work with. Like, this is not going to be a good situation. So my interest in kind of learning more about it really was like an ethical dilemma. Like, is this even legal? Are they doing things correctly? And what I quickly learned after kind of becoming a student of tax strategy with working with, this major client, was that it was perfectly legal. And it's really what has been going on for decades to help business owners, large business owners, be successful. And then when I went home to my own community, I found struggling small business owners who had no idea that they were doing things in a way that wasn't supporting their business growth. And so I saw this big gap between the great big business and the small business owner that was trying to find their way into becoming bigger. And that planted the seed literally 20 years ago for wanting to start my own firm and give my expertise and knowledge to smaller business owners. But it took a while of learning and failing and making a lot of mistakes along the way to really gain enough knowledge to truly bring value to the small business owners. So about 6 years ago, I started NextGen from a seed, like I said, that was planted about 20 years ago, and designed it to really cater to small and growing businesses, that we could bring the same strategic approach and spirit of excellence that I learned from working in a large global CPA firm, and give access to that to smaller business owners. And we learned that really that knowledge and expertise is a key building block to creating a large business. And it was one that so many small business owners were missing. And so now we are literally obsessed with making sure that small business owners get access to this knowledge and expertise, that they learn to understand it, and really like use us as like the outsourced major organization, our department that major organizations have, so they can get access to it at an affordable rate that allows them to leverage some of the same tax strategies that those big businesses have been using for decades.
I love how you mentioned that the seed was planted 20 years ago, but it didn't start growing until 6 years ago. And I think that's something that's really relevant for all of us, is that some idea, something is placed on our heart and we think about it and we think about it. So for you, what was the kind of, not final straw, but like, what was that push that actually made you go into starting NextGen, and why didn't it start any sooner?
So it's interesting. And there's this quote from track star Usain Bolt that I love and I quote all the time. And he says, I trained 4 years to run 9 seconds. And sometimes we get frustrated if we do work for 2 months and don't see results. And I think the story of kind of the long period of time between kind of when the seed was planted and when it actually started to produce some fruit in the form of NextGen relates to that entirely. Like, there was a lot of learning and training that had to happen to prepare me to be able to do this independently. So I want to, acknowledge that first. But I remember a little over 6 years ago when I really, really felt like pulled to start doing this on my own and start to serve small business owners. I had a really close friend who was really, really struggling with her business. She couldn't quite figure out kind of how to make the dollars work to make sure everything could get paid and she could market and like do all the things to really help her business be successful. And so she engaged a CPA firm that she thought was going to help her. And in fact, they took a lot of money and earned a lot in fees, but really didn't provide any help. And unfortunately, her business failed. She wasn't able to be successful because she didn't have access to the knowledge and expertise. And it was a light bulb moment for me, because I realized she's not alone. There are businesses out there with owners who have the passion and the grit to be successful, but they just lack access to some of the knowledge and expertise in the financial space that's going to help them actually produce success. And she was a failure story that was preventable. After, I learned about kind of the full context of her story, I identified a few key things that would have made that story end a lot differently. And I
Mm.
said, you know what? I don't do this really for businesses. Like I do this as an employee, but I want to help you through this, and I want to find a path forward for you to help you be more successful. And so she was kind of my one case study that I did, and the transformation from the failed business that she had to now a thriving 3 location business that I helped her
Wow.
with was proof to me that I could take this knowledge and expertise and make a real difference. And I refuse to be the kind of CPA in the firm that accumulates a lot of fees but doesn't create a transformation for their clients. And so it really inspired me to structure my business in a way that it produces transformation. It can't just be a transaction that, like I say, makes me money but doesn't support that business owner. It has to be mutually beneficial. And so we've led our business that way and have a ton of other transformation stories that we are really excited that we were able to have just some role in. That's very similar to my friend, that they were on a path potentially to failure, and we were able to really change the trajectory and turn that into a success story.
Oh, I love that so much. And I, it's so great to know, like, I think that you were friends. I mean, that's awesome,
Mhm.
amazing. But I think what really is coming to mind is that we don't know what we don't know. Like we
Mhm.
don't even know where to go look for that knowledge and power. Like we don't even know the search terms to put in.
Yeah.
So how do you communicate that out to business owners and how do you find new clients?
So we think storytelling is a really powerful tool. We really lean into telling our client stories with their permission, of course. Really telling their stories about kind of where they started, what work we were able to support them and getting to a better position, and then where they are today and what the future looks like for them. Because oftentimes, even with the Amazon and an e-commerce example, like we look at big businesses but don't necessarily see how they relate to our small business. And so we don't think that's the path. We think they're, way different than us. And what we try to do is explain from a small business owner's perspective, and oftentimes in their own words, what it means to actually get the right size solutions for a small business to help propel them into becoming, a bigger business and more profitable. And so I think storytelling is a great tool that we use to just kind of get our message out there and let our clients speak in their own words. And then I'm an entrepreneur too, right? Like I am
Yeah, for sure.
on the same path that my clients are. And I made a whole lot of mistakes along the way. And I'm like openly willing to tell like the stories of where I fell short, the times when I thought I could do something independently, that I needed an expert plugged in. And I feel like that helps like new prospects for us relate to us better and understand that, yeah, she has no clue how to do marketing. So she hired an expert to do it. I have no clue how to do taxes. So I'm going to hire Cindy and NextGen to do it, and to recognize that we weren't supposed to like wear all the hats.
Well,
Some of
and that's such a great point though, because as a new entrepreneur, you do have to wear all the hats. And I know that you work with clients that are a bit more settled in their business journey. There was a previous guest on, Joseph Nantoma. I think his episodes like 26 and 27. He doesn't call it small business. He calls it growth business.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
love that reframe. I think it's so great to know every time someone says small business, I'm like, oh, no, it's only in the growth phase.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to point that out there and just shout out to Joseph. But where I was going with that is, you're working with these businesses when they're, ready to kind of go and at that place where they need that. Something that I've seen with my clients and my experience is there's a really it's very difficult for some people to let go of that control. They've had it for so long. They've been doing all the things, even though they know consciously, they know it's the best choice to pass over. Subconsciously, it's like, I give up control, something bad's going to happen. So
Yeah.
how do you navigate that with your clients? And is that something that you see with them?
Yeah, we definitely see that. I think sometimes this sentiment that if I'm the CEO, I'm supposed to do all the things. And so we try to kind of debunk that myth as well, because really successful CEOs know what's in their zone of genius and they manage that. And they know what falls outside their zone of genius and they delegate that. And that's like really a sign of success, because you just literally can't do all the things forever. But I think early on, to your point, when you're in a growth phase, when you're a growth business, it's hard to let go of any of that control. And I think sometimes there's even a trust gap of, okay, I know my business, this is my baby, this is my livelihood. Does the next person have that same respect and appreciation for what I'm trying to build? And so we really try to start with building a strong foundation of trust, making sure that they know we want to be their partner. We're not just a transactional firm. We want to work with them. We want to get in the details with them and help make sure that the work we do supports their role as the CEO. I tell clients all the time, like, you are the CEO and you will always be the CEO. But in big businesses, they also have a CFO who does a lot of the financial work to help support the CEO. They report to the CEO. And so that's the lane that we really want to be in. We want to be the supporter to your zone of genius as the CEO and match that with our zone of genius as the CFO. And when we lay that foundation of trust and really help them understand where their zone of genius lies and where ours does, it really helps us to form a good partnership and help them understand that it's okay to release control of the things that don't fall in your zone of genius and to put that into the control of someone that's really well versed at it. And then I say again too, and I think this is true for every provider and that supports any business, you should ask for references. Like, you should ask, tell me about somebody else that has maybe a similar background, similar industry to me. And so we have a lot of raving fans that can just talk very, very candidly to people to help them understand, here's what happened when I released some control. And this is why I trust them to take care of some of the things that I don't feel like fall in my zone of genius. And having someone that they can relate to that helps kind of extend that trust and makes them a little more comfortable with releasing some of that control. We found that's really helpful in just kind of overcoming that hurdle. And then the last thing I'll say is communication either kills or thrills. So we do a
So
lot
true.
to ensure we communicate well with our folks as well.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. And it's such a great point to say, "Oh, do you have a CFO?" "Oh, well, no, I don't." "Well, we're your fractional CFO." I love that that's become such a phrase now that everyone's a fractional this and a fractional that, but it's true because we need those partnerships rather than have it as, that you're just somebody we hired, right? A contractor, right? Partner versus contractor is a huge thing. And I'd love to talk more about the communication because I really feel everything comes down to communication. No matter what your business is, it is all run by people. I don't know when this episode's going to be released. We might have been taken over by AI by then, but hopefully not. But it's all run by people. We all have different experiences. We all communicate differently. We all receive information differently. So how have you been able to adapt your style to be able to be received well by all of your customers and potential customers?
Yeah, what's interesting? There's obviously so many negative things that were created from the pandemic, but I think there's a few kind of silver linings and I guess bonuses that we got from such a tragic and really challenging kind of space in our country. But one of the things that we gained was that we learned virtual communication can actually be equally effective and in some cases more effective than the traditional communication style. So CPA firms and probably attorneys and like major financial folks have always kind of thrived in face-to-face communication. And that went away in 2020. And it was more communicating through Zoom and virtual platforms, texting and messaging through like secure client portals. And so we really leaned into leveraging technology and using it to better equip us to communicate with our clients, which actually allows for more timely communication. You're not waiting 2 weeks to come in for a meeting. And so you can hop in to a Zoom really quickly. Allowed us to be more efficient. And so now we have really more and better communication with our clients because we can do it in a more tech savvy way. And we have found that our clients prefer to be able to text us. They might text us at 10 o'clock at night when a question comes into their head. And we can respond to that in the next morning. They like to say, hey, can we look at this report together? I need to go meet with my bank tomorrow. Can we just hop on a Zoom and look at this report together? And we can hop in that, share screens and chat through things. We can even join them at more meetings. Like, hey, let's do that bank meeting virtually and get all three of us together. so we can help, explain and address questions. And so we have found that doing more virtual and, like I say, tech-driven communication has allowed it to be even better. Now we still have an appreciation for face-to-face communication, so we still do that. Typically once a quarter, we're going to bring our client in, but it allows it to be a lot more frequent and a lot more convenient for our client when we leverage the virtual options, like say texting and messaging through our portal as well. And what's interesting, because I initially was concerned that it was going to feel less personal, that it was going to not feel like the same partnership that we work to foster, and it's been the exact opposite. It's actually allowed us to have more frequent communication and more opportunities to see kind of what's actually going on in our world. So there might be a dog creeping into some of our conversations, or kids that are additive as well. And so it actually helps foster a little better relationship, even beyond just the professional, to be more personal and have just a better understanding of what's going on in the world of our client. So despite, like I say, all the negatives that were created in 2020, I think that's one silver lining that has helped us to have even better ways to communicate with our clients.
Which is fantastic. And I absolutely love that. But the question that pops to my mind as you were speaking is, and you've got a team, and it's a team of women, which is a whole separate thing that I want to discuss after this next question coming up. But as women, we tend to be very giving in all capacities. It's just a more natural feminine trait. Mm-hmm. So my question is, how do you set the boundaries with the clients on, mentioning getting a text at 10 o'clock at night? Then you said, you don't look at it till the morning, but how do you maintain those boundaries with yourself, with your other teammates, so that no one's getting burnt out and feeling, overwhelmed? Because having that one-on-one is great. But then does that lead to the expectation that the client expects, instantaneous responses and communications? And how do you balance that?
I'll be honest. It's a process. I would love to say, oh, figure it out. Here's step 1, 2, and 3. It's a process. I think, to your point, as women, we are naturally kind of inclined to be problem solvers, immediate problem solvers. Like, we don't put things on the back burner. Like, we're going to just handle it when it comes up. And
we got to stop the baby from crying.
Exactly. And so everything is kind of handled with urgency, and that's just kind of our natural inclination. And so we have to be really intentional about setting those boundaries. And for us, it's really clear, like we put it in writing, we set the boundaries, but our natural inclination is to walk over our own boundaries. And I know we're not alone in that. So it's taken a lot of, like I say, intentional effort to design a process by which we won't allow our boundaries to be walked over by ourselves or by our clients. And so we've created even a communication protocol, and we explain it to our clients like this. We explain, you want me at my best, right? You want me when I am fully focused and giving my attention to the matter that you need addressed. And me at my best falls within this time frame. And for our team, we have very flexible work arrangements. So they know where they work best and when they work best. So for some of our team members, they actually start at 7 a.m. because that's when they're at their best. For me, because I've got kiddos to drop at school, I don't start my day until 8:30. And so we set in like our timeline. And so when we begin our relationship with the client and introduce them to the members of our team that they're going to be working with, we tell them up front, here's the hours that we operate at our best. So when you communicate with us outside of this window, it's going to be received, but it's going to be responded to when we're at our best. And ultimately, that's good for us and that's good for you, because you don't want the half-hearted response that comes from a message at 10 o'clock. You want the thoughtful, thorough response that comes from a message when we're at our best.
Oh, I love this.
We have worked really hard to help our clients understand that. And what they have also learned is that they're also not at their best at 10 o'clock. When they fire off a message to us at 10 o'clock, it's not thorough, it's not complete, and they have a bunch of follow-up questions. And so we're actually trying to work, and like I say, it's a process to train them, for them to communicate when they're at their best. And that actually helps all of us to enforce our boundaries better. So I don't know that we've got it figured out. I think it's, like I say, a process. We're learning, we're intentional about trying to make sure that we honor these boundaries that we've set. But that's the way that we try to make sure that it's not just an arbitrary thought of we only want to operate in these hours, but it's really based on when we work best. And that's how we give you our best as a provider.
No, that's a beautiful way to frame it because it doesn't feel icky on either side,
Mm-hmm.
right? It makes that a really nice, clear boundary without feeling constrictive. So I love the way that you do that. So going from there, most accountants are men.
Yeah.
I came from engineering, so I understand and can relate very much to being the only female in the room. And here you are operating an accounting firm full of women. Was that an intentional setup? And how did you go about looking for people to add to your team?
So for me, I'll say candidly, it wasn't intentional. It happened organically, but it wasn't. I didn't intentionally exclude or anything and growing the team. But one of the things that was really really important to me when creating a public accounting firm is that I wanted to create a culture that would allow everyone to feel supported and be able to work at their best. And I came from a culture that I would not describe with those words. Public accounting, generally speaking, is a 50-60 hour work week job. It's weekends, it's nights, it's all encompassing, and it doesn't really lend itself to boundaries or balance in any way. And while that does inspire some excellence, it also inspires burnout. It also correlates to people not really actually operating at their best for that full amount of time. And so I wanted to create a firm that could still inspire that same excellence, but honor that I need to be excellent outside of work as well. I'm raising children, I am married. Like there's a lot of parts of me that are not related to my role as a CEO and as a CPA. And so I wanted to create that for myself. And what we found was that other women with kind of similar backgrounds to me were really attracted to that because they didn't get that elsewhere. And we are overrun with people who are interested in working with us because we're known for our culture. We're known for creating an environment that honors what we do outside of work. And so women, much like me, are attracted to come work with us. And it's just been kind of an organic process of they learn kind of how we are and the way that we work. And they want to bring their genius to an organization that has a culture like that. And so we've worked for the past 6 years to really make sure that we are a people first firm and that our ability to really structure the way that we work, the location that we work. We had worked from home before it was a thing. So the way that we work actually allows us to be more successful than most. And I started NextGen at my kitchen table with a laptop all by myself. And in 5 years grew us to a team of 24 women.
That's
and
amazing.
We haven't had to search for these people to come partner with us and support it. They've actually sought us out because they know that they were going to get to work in a space that was going to be supportive to their life, not just to their profession. So it's been great to do it. It's obviously been challenging as well, but it's been to me just really important to create a firm that allows someone like myself to raise kids and still, excel in their profession.
Well, and it's so great. I mean, I feel like culture gets thrown around as like, oh, we have a good culture, but like, what does that mean? It's something that, you have to like water and tend to every single day. And that little amount of effort compounds over time. And you save yourself so much energy in finding good people because so many companies struggle with finding the right people, especially in today's society where not everyone wants to work. There's a lot of struggles. There's quiet quitting. There's all sorts of things happening. So it can't be overlooked the importance of creating that culture. And I love how well you spoke about how it's been paying dividends to you in the long run, which is the whole point of it, and having a place that people want to come to work, because you and I both know that an hour is not an hour. I mean, the amount of work that you can get done in an hour when you are feeling your best, when you are in your zone of genius, when you are rocking it, is so different from the amount of work you can get done in an hour when you feel burnt out, when you feel unappreciated, when you feel like an outsider. I mean, it's really something that I wish more business owners would pay more attention to and really give it the credit other than just like, oh, we have a culture and it's pretty good. Like, check the box, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's this kind of misconception that if you make space for other attributes of a person beyond just kind of the work that they do when their fingers are to a keyboard, that somehow that's going to make them less productive or you're going to get less out of them because you're giving them space to do other things. And we just experience the exact opposite. When we give our people flex time, when we give them the opportunity to choose their work location, to even set their schedule, some start at 7, some start at 10, that's actually creating higher levels of productivity instead of the opposite. And it was an experiment when we tried it. Hey, let's see how this works. And it's worked really, really well. And we've executed the right pivots to make adjustments. But when you put people in an environment where they can have some autonomy to be able to complete their work, it actually makes them more productive.
Yeah.
And I wish more organizations, understood that and were willing to just give their teams the opportunity to define what makes them most productive.
And it's finding that intrinsic motivation. When you have someone who has that intrinsic motivation, you don't need to micromanage them. Like, they're going to get it done. So it's an important thing to look for in the hiring process as well. Well, I can't believe that we are up against our time. It went by so fast. This was so great speaking with you. You have such great insight, and I highly encourage everyone to reach out and work with you. So please tell them how they can do that.
Yeah, so I am proud to lead an amazing team at NextGen Tax Services based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You can find us online at nextgenempires.com, and we're on all the social media platforms at nextgen.tax. And we really want to make it easy for people to find us and for them to partner with us and design a program that works specifically for their business. So you can also send us an email with a little bit of information about you and your business, and we will coordinate setting up a meeting to make sure that we can design something that works perfectly for you. So you can email me directly. It's really simple. It's Cindy, Cindy, at nextgen.tax, nextgen.tax. I would love to work with more people that get a chance to talk or to hear from me here, and hopefully can hear from me more about their business specifically when we connect on a one-to-one basis.
Oh, absolutely. I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest. It was great getting to meet you.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And to the listeners, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your audience so we can continue to bring you amazing guests like this to help you grow your business, to help you learn something you didn't know that you didn't know, and just for the sake of knowledge, because knowledge is power and we all grow together. I appreciate all of you. Until next time, take care.